Call to order the special meeting of March 18th, 2020 for the city of Pacifica. We will start with roll call. Salute to the flag. That's where we'll start. Call to order, roll call. My apologies.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Beer.
Here.
Councilmember Vaterlaus.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer.
Here.
Mayor Martin.
Here. I will lead the salute to the flag this evening.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, so tonight I want to give you just a quick rundown. It's not going to be that quick of what we're going to do this evening. I want to thank City Clerk for helping out with this. We do not have anybody here in the audience, but pursuant to the provisions in the Governor's Executive Order N-25-20, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act, and pursuant to the order of the Health Officer of San Mateo County dated March 16th, 2020, as this meeting is necessary so that the city can conduct necessary business and is permitted under the order as an essential governmental function. So that's why we're here this evening. It's a special meeting. I want to give you a heads up. We are practicing social distancing here. We have city council members 6 feet apart. We've got Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer. We've got Councilmember Vaterlaus, Councilmember O'Neill, Councilmember Beer, and city clerk, city manager, and city attorney, all very far apart. So thank you to everyone who helped set that up. We are maintaining at least 6 feet in between individuals. Members of the public that are present, which of one just showed up, they are required to maintain social distancing. That is a 6-foot distance between yourself and other individuals. We also have ourselves situated this evening where that is possible. If any member of the public presently is at high risk of severe illness from COVID-19 or sick, you must return to shelter in place at your residence and observe the meeting remotely. Public attendance at this meeting location is limited to comply with social distancing requirement. If the attendance reaches at a level which interferes with safe social distancing, members of the public present for comment are requested to leave the room and provide the opportunity for other members to provide public comment. So please refrain from congregating outside the room if a 6-foot distance between individuals cannot be maintained. I had to read that, but we have one audience member. So if we happen to get inundated with a bunch of folks, we know what's up. You can view this broadcast remotely via Channel 26, thank you to Pacific Coast Television, or Channel 27, or online at cityofpacifica.org/livestream. So because this is a special council meeting, our public comments, and because we're viewing recognizing social distancing, public comments can be submitted to the meeting by emailing publiccomment@ci.pacifica.ca.us. That is publiccomment@ci.pacifica.ca.us. So for this special city council meeting, public comments may be only on items that are on the agenda, so we will not have oral communications this evening. You need to indicate in the email, in the subject line, the agenda item number. There's only a few this evening. Whether you would like your comments read into the record during the meeting. Otherwise, you can email them and they will be on the record but not read into the record. If requested, electronic comments will be read into the record and with a maximum allowance of 3 minutes per individual comment or subject line to the time limitations imposed by myself for public comments. That's 3 minutes. So electronic comments received by email will be monitored during the meeting and read into the record if requested at the appropriate time. We ask that you limit your electronic comments so that they will comply with the 3-minute time limitation for public comment. Your entire electronic comment may not be read into the record due to time limitations imposed, but it will become part of the record and it will be available. So in other words, if you have something to say on one of the items on the agenda this evening, email publiccomment@ci.pacifica.ca.us and it will be read. and we will observe the 3-minute rule. If it goes over the 3 minutes, it'll also be in the record, but it won't be heard out loud. Also, if there's anyone present here who will be approaching the podium, there is hand sanitizer, there's disinfecting wipes, and we ask that you take one of the disinfecting wipes, wipe the microphone. It's been prepped, so you won't have to wipe it, but afterwards you can wipe it for the next person. Speaker cards are placed at each seat, and I don't think I need to say any more for that for this evening. So thank you. We will move on to the consent calendar. Anyone have anything they'd like to pull from the consent calendar? I've got, so one other thing is that we're gonna have to call our votes this evening, and our red lights aren't working because you don't have red lights. So we'll just raise a hand and I'll observe. So I've got Councilmember Beckmeyer.
Yes, I would like to pull item 1 from the consent agenda.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve item 2 on the consent agenda?
Second.
Okay, please vote, but we will have a call vote.
Call, not raise hands, call.
Correct.
Councilmember,
Voice vote.
Councilmember O'Neill,
Yes.
Councilmember Beer,
Yes.
Councilmember Vaterlaus,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Martin,
Yes.
Mayor Martin, Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer.
Yes.
Okay, great. So item 1.
Okay, I just wanted to bring a couple of items to the table, if you will. We have, sorry, public comment. Sorry. And that's item 3. In terms of our communications, I wanted to make sure that we're able to bring forward communications for the public on COVID-19, if we could discuss the ways in which we're doing that, because that seems to be an area of concern that's being expressed. So I knew we couldn't discuss it unless it was off of the consent, and I wanted to bring that forward as something to go over for the record, and also so that we understand exactly what's happening around that. That's the first item. I had a couple other things, but if anyone else has anything, feel free.
So I'm sorry, can you just rebrief on that? Just what you'd like?
I want to discuss communications with the public around
Okay.
COVID-19.
Okay, so you want to do that now?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I don't know at whatever point is appropriate, if there's, if the city manager wants to discuss that, or if you want me to let you know the feedback I've been getting from the community, or what's the best way to proceed?
Yeah, and just for clarity, you're talking about over the past 2 weeks and moving forward in the future, generally communications about this crisis we're in, and not just the public communications tonight from the public on this item in the meeting, correct? Okay,
Yes,
all right.
correct, yes.
Well, I'd be happy to summarize what we have been doing and the trajectory we're headed on, and then, but if there's any particular topics or questions or ideas, you know, we're all ears. You know, this is a pretty unprecedented type of public health crisis that we're experiencing. When we prepare for disasters, usually we're thinking about disasters that occur and then we're in response mode, like an earthquake or a seawall breach or something. And this type of pandemic, something that hasn't happened in 50 years, and there's been only 3 over the last 150 years. So certainly our city staff and all of us together, the community, as well as all the other cities in the region and the county, are really learning about this. And so, and there's a lot of uncertainties in the information that is changing hour by hour. So certainly that makes our communications an ongoing and prolonged necessity with regular attention, rather than an incident occurred and then in a couple days we know what the damage was and we report that out. So what we're doing is, and what we've jumped on last week, is really to create sort of the portal on our website, our webpage site. There's a link to it from the homepage that's all about everything we're doing. So that's a great source. Not everyone has access to the internet, so we want people to really share information that they know with those friends and family and loved ones that don't regularly visit the internet. So that is evolving day by day. We're updating that information day by day. And then we're taking the new information, and while there's been sort of an enormous inflow, drinking from the fire hose of information in this beginning stage, we're getting it all up on the webpage, and the kind of point we're at right now is to really look at that webpage and try to organize it better. Categories, references to other websites, et cetera. So we're doing that, and that's going to be an evolving journey. The other things we're doing is putting things out on all our social media channels. That includes Connect with Pacifica. I think the last 2 weeks we've had information about the coronavirus, and so social media channels include Connect with Pacifica, Facebook, Twitter. I'll probably forget some. Nextdoor, and as we maybe have more staff time with our limited staff resources, maybe we can do more social media. Right now, all of our limited staff time is really focused on our essential services that we're working on and getting as much public information out as we can. In addition, the mayor and Captain Clements from the police department and myself went down to PCTV and recorded a couple spots so we could use the TV and YouTube type of video channel for communication. And in this type of circumstance, we can't go out and talk to groups and et cetera, so we're not doing that. And we also are pushing out, as part of just the factual information, last week we did one letter from the mayor, and we're working on a second letter from the mayor with updates to the community. And I may have missed some of the public communication channels. There's certainly a significant amount of resources through the county EOC website, the regular county website, and county health department that we're referring a lot of folks to. And there's all kinds of other, the San Mateo County Economic Development Association is starting to bring together and provide a lot of information about businesses, resources, assistance for businesses. And so that's an overview of what we're doing, and I'm all ears for any great ideas on what we can, in moving forward, do as well.
I could just add that, to sort of reiterate what the city manager said about how things are fluid and changing hourly. I'm not sure if the council's aware, but this morning the governor issued another executive order that suspended even further certain restrictions of the Brown Act, meaning that city councils can now actually it's encouraged to ban the public from meetings and provide only electronic and telephone, if available, access to the meetings from the public. So that's something that we will also be talking about, and the council will be considering, I believe, in a later agenda item as to how you want to conduct these meetings. But as the manager said, this is a serious national health crisis, and the governor, the county health officials for now 8 of the Bay Area counties has put in a very restrictive shelter-in-place order, and everyone, I've been in contact, because I represent 5 cities, I've been in contact with county officials in 4 of the counties in the Bay Area, and they are all saying the same thing, that the best thing that people can do is to self-isolate and to practice social distancing. And so they are really discouraging gatherings of the public of any number, and which is why the governor did issue this new executive order to actually allow councils to prohibit members of the public so long as they provide an electronic means to communicate with the council about agenda items.
On that
I was just going to ask, does that apply to planning commissions also?
Applies to all meetings.
Okay.
So just a point of clarification then in terms of Pacifica. The mayor just read our way of doing an email. Do we have telephone? Is that a possibility for us or no?
Well, that is something that I know that Pacifica, as well as a lot of jurisdictions, are looking into. It is not available currently. And so, you know, I was talking to a IT person, consultant, a couple of days ago, and they don't have the bandwidth right now to assist all the cities that are demanding this sort of telephonic appearance. But it is definitely something that we will be investigating to try to assure that the public will have access to comment on agenda items. At this point, you know, it may be, we don't know if it's even going to work tonight. We don't know if there's a delay in the broadcast. We don't know if people are going to be able to, in real time, contact the city. But certainly, people will be able to electronically comment prior to the meeting. We will collect those, and then we will read them out on the record.
Okay, thank you. The other issue that was brought forward that I would like to know how we're going to continue to update it, I guess, is the issue of defining essential services, essential business. That seems to be evolving a little bit over time, and maybe it bears just repeating for clarification on what those items are, so that even if people didn't see it the first time on the website, they see it the time that they're looking.
Sure. I actually don't have the order in front of me, so I can't repeat exactly what that says, but I do know as of a call yesterday and today, countywide city managers call, there's a few resources that are put together. So there's a legal call center that the county has put together, and this is information that will actually be in the mayor's letter that comes out tomorrow morning and on our website. So there's a number that folks can call to ask about interpretation of the order. There's countywide, there's a lot of questions about, you know, what businesses does this apply to or not, and et cetera, what is essential and what is not. There's also an email address, health order FAQ at smcgov.org. That's health order FAQ, all caps FAQ, at smcgov.org to email questions about interpretations of that order. Okay. And each of the individual cities is working with the county in this discussion to refine what the right interpretation of the order is, what the county is going to say that interpretation is, and what the cities are going to hold as that interpretation. And the county council has repeatedly said, look, this order was brought together over a very short period of time, and attorneys working all night long in order to get it out, and given the urgency of the situation. So they knew there were going to be questions and loopholes, and so it's an all evolving thing.
Great. Does anyone else?
Yeah, I have a question about the executive order from the governor on evictions, and I was wondering, I believe that the county is going to issue one. Did you have any indication of when that's going to be?
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know if we're done with the communications part.
This is all still part of it.
But if there's something on communications that you
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
I have big communication issues too.
Well, wow, this one's really loud. So the community's looking to us, right? Why aren't we hearing from council? Where are you? We need to hear from you. And so I've been really working hard to get the information out as much as I can. but I'm hoping that perhaps as a group, we might be able to collaborate in some way and share that responsibility, because it's a big responsibility, and if we're doing it every day as hard as I've been doing it, you're gonna burn out pretty fast. So I don't know if there's some way that we can manage to work together to get the information out without completely burning out. That makes sense.
If I can chime in, one idea that occurred to me, I don't know if it directly responds to your thought on that, but as the city is serving as this portal of information, putting out a lot of specific information about city services, which is essential to put out, we have this great portal of information on the website, and one message would be to all of the service organizations, all of the NGOs and organizations in Pacifica to link to and refer to that city's source.
Of course.
So that's one way to do that. In terms of collaborating, I don't know. Council can talk about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
how-
it's a weird concept, I know.
Well, collaboration,
Yeah.
those serial meetings and those Brown Act requirements have not been suspended.
No.
So I don't know what
I'm not talking about serial meetings.
But well, you can certainly collaborate here at meetings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And where do we get all the information? Because,
We get it from city.
no, because I don't know when the school district hands out meals until you put it, and then you placed it.
Yes.
But that's Jefferson. That's not the Pacifica School District. And so the items aren't coming together.
Right.
Like the seniors, when are they getting their meals? How are they getting their meals? Do they walk up to the back door? Each one of these items, and not necessarily city-related, but the schools.
Absolutely.
Because the people all assume that we regulate what the schools do too.
Right.
And it's important for the public.
It is. Thank you.
I'll speak just briefly to that, because as I mentioned in the beginning, there's a significant amount of information just related to what does this order mean, and what are essential city services, and how are we ensuring those happen. And then I mentioned that our next step is to all of the agencies that are providing services, the schools, the water district, et cetera, and the city are figuring out their continuing operations and how programs are going to work. So just in the last 24 hours, literally, that information is coming together. And there's a section, I have a draft here for the city letter, the mayor letter that will go out tomorrow, and it has detailed bullet points with links to a lot of that information that's coming together now. And again, that'll be repeated on the city's website. So questions about lunch provision from the school districts, continuing learning from the school districts, the city is attempting to push that information out, and they can push the city's information out, et cetera. But it's really a matter of like, this stuff is just coming together yesterday, so we're trying to figure out digitally how to bring it together, serve as that portal of information, and have it be a one-stop location as much as we can. But again, we've been taxed with, like we don't have the bandwidth, and hopefully as this new normal settles in for the next couple weeks, maybe we'll have more bandwidth to really organize all that information. But so.
The public wants it yesterday. So I understand it's changing every day and it's very fluid, but
we can't
people
get
are
it out.
frustrated.
I feel like we can't get it out fast enough. I said to my husband, I feel like the mayor's not doing enough, and I am the mayor, so.
I was gonna say, would you talk to the mayor?
It's an unfortunate situation that we're in, but I think everyone also feels the same way, and for those that don't sit where we sit, they don't see it that way, because they're scared. And so it's our job to ensure them that we are here for them, and we're working with them and side by side. Call people up. I have FaceTime live them, or Skype them, or FaceTime your friends. Just try to get somebody on your phone. We're all going to be looking for electricity soon, because I'm certainly out of juice by like 8:30 in the morning. But we can't get the information, we can't get it fast enough, and we can't get it out of us fast enough before it changes. And I'm with you, I feel bad, I feel guilty, but at least we're all in the same boat, and because we're all sitting with each other, we should also communicate with each other too. So take that information, be consistent with that information, and then just be in touch, right?
And in terms of collaborating, that's through me. So if you know of a source, a link on a website, or even a printed information, send it to me, and then we'll get it into our hopper to consolidate together.
I'll send you everything. That's not a problem.
I don't know,
I
don't
think-
send me out.
Well, but that's what we're trying to get out there constantly, right? And I've been doing that. And so I think what I'm hoping is that if at one moment, like, I'm like, I can't do this anymore today, like, I am going to be assured that one of y'all will be able to do it.
Right.
And
And I
further
don't
to
know
that,
how we can do that publicly, stating that, yeah, like, well, maybe today will be Sue Beckmeyer's turn.
well, I'm curious if actually, because when we're putting out a major fire, the business continuity is business continuity, right? That's what people are working on right now, making sure people can still work. But in the meantime, sort of their day job we're coming more and more behind. So I'm curious if one of those tasks really is for someone that works for city staff, is able to dedicate 50% of their day or something like that to receiving information and getting that information out there. People read Connect with Pacifica, and I don't care if I receive those 5 times a day. People look at Instagram. I mean, I love seeing those beautiful photos that Joshua posts. So people really, everybody's virtual right now. And so part of my mayor's message was to create this virtual community, be your own communications tool. So I'm curious, and I know we can't have a discussion about it, but if that maybe could be something that we could work on. 'Cause I have that, and I am that at my organization. I'm like help desk for help desk. So anything that they need to get done really quickly and get out there to the community, that's me. Any changing in operations or changing in how we do things, that's my job right now. Everything else goes to the wayside.
Right, so, and to that point, Executive Assistant Elizabeth Brooks has literally, for the last few days, been spending 130% of her time just handling that information in the website. Thank you. As of Monday's 9 a.m., emergency response team meeting, we set up a daily 2 o'clock public information call where we coordinate amongst city staff all the new public information that's coming in. And a point that we were talking about today is how do we best organize and streamline that information to be able to maximize the staff resources that are available. And I have no doubt that, and we talked about decentralizing all the social media posts to departments so that they can get specific department information out, and then we consolidate it all together. So we're looking at all of that, and it's going to be a combined more than one person job to do all of that. In the meantime, we do have our normal ongoing city business that's been disregarded for the last week, but can't be disregarded for time coming up, getting agendas out for meetings and reports, et cetera. So perhaps that piece relates to the third agenda topic for today's meeting. But yeah, it's going to require a massive amount of resources just to get that out as fast as we can.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth.
To your point about using the Connect with Pacifica, the Instagram and that, what I was thinking about when you said that is sometimes smaller chunks of information delivered more frequently is easier to digest and to grasp onto. Way of daily or twice a day or whatever, consolidating that into like a long-running compendium, if you will. But as you're saying, things are changing all the time, or a new piece of information is coming out. Let me give you an example. When I work for the school district, and when the school lunches issue came forward, initially, it was my understanding, I think I was wrong, that there would be lunches served at each site. In fact, there are lunches being made available through 2 sites in the school district, Cabrillo School and Sunset Ridge School. Another point was originally the timing of when that would occur. That shifted a little in recognition of the fact that there were going to need to be more meals produced, and we needed a process for bringing them to the car and not having people congregating. And so it is a moving picture. And so when you report out, the fastest information possible, and then it's now an update, we need to make sure that there's a way to circle back and consistently do that, because I think people just don't know what to believe or hear, or, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, and if you're sorting through all the different chains of information, so if you can
Scrolling.
have chains that, like on Nextdoor, right? You put one message and then you can continue it in the threads. And I'm sure that our city staff is doing the very best that they possibly can.
Oh, yeah.
For all of that. So I think my whole point was, how can we best support city staff in getting the information out? Maybe that was a better question.
Right.
Yeah, and as I don't know if I was clear enough, I feel like one of the areas that as maybe things settle down a little bit, we'll get to more regular social media posts. We've really been focused on the core information on the website. So an idea occurs to me, the council members, this is your decision to how you handle your own social media within Brown Act requirements and everything, but to be able to post out on your social media sources information that's to like and share and whatever else we call that, to do that would be great. Another example to Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer's statement was a new kind of concise, focused piece of information out of this afternoon's call is the SurveyMonkey sign-up site countywide for volunteer resources. So that's a very focused, specific, blast that we can do that says, hey, if you are a volunteer, and looking for how you can volunteer and kind of get into that system, here's where you need to sign up. And the county is also, another piece of information, they're also looking for medical volunteers, so volunteers that have medical expertise. So there are these very focused things that we'll see, I think, more and more in the coming days, those very specific things come out.
We've certainly had inquiries, I know I have, from the community that want to help, and folks that are concerned about seniors being isolated, wanting to help understand, it goes above and beyond. Maybe it's people who aren't aware of or part of our Meals on Wheels delivery, but they simply want to assist in that, and worried about how do they get to the grocery store and all of this, and wanting to volunteer. But we needed a chance to kind of come up with the process, and I know that Director Perez was working on that. So I'm not sure if what you're suggesting with the county piece that you just mentioned is that is the avenue that we need people to be registering through, or is there something local to our city that is going to be an opportunity for people to make themselves available?
Well, I think it could be both. There are some things in my most recent conversation with Director Perez is that, our volunteers for Meals on Wheels, that's working. We don't need more for that. So if people want to immediately volunteer for other things and we don't have those opportunities created yet for them, the county site and resource may be good. And people who sign up on the county site, the county may turn around, we may go to the county and say, hey, we need, X, Y, and Z, and we get people in Pacifica, that want to do that. I just want to mention, because it's important, one of the challenges with this pandemic relates exactly to volunteers.
Exactly.
There's not a system yet for sort of the screening or testing of folks. There's the protective measures that are in place that we're implementing with our volunteers who are delivering meals for Meals on Wheels. So there's those protocols, but as this virus spreads and more people are infected and more people are being tested and more people are finding out that they've been exposed to someone who tested positive, that's just a general concern related to volunteers doing work. So I'm not saying that there's not going to be an avenue or a process to do that. I just don't think the whole system is there yet to figure
I
that out.
understand, I agree, and I'm concerned about that. As much as people want to help, we want to make sure that we find ways to do it in a safe manner, in the safest way possible, and that's kind of, I'm bringing it forward, but I also recognize that we can't jump the gun, I guess, or rush the process too much, even though it seems like, hurry up already. We need, people need something. So, anyway.
And the county meetings that the county has daily, if we could get updates on those county meetings, since only 2 of us are allowed to attend?
I was going to ask about that, because I was on the call today as much as I could be, with the technology being what it was. It kind of was falling apart, but there was some information that I want to bring forward, but in light of Brown Act, I can't just pop out a quick email to my fellow council members and go, oh, this is what they said. So working through the city manager is probably the best way, and then he can circle it back, the key points. I mean, to give you a full rundown of every single thing everybody said would be, probably not of great benefit, but I think there's some key points that could be helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And that also is an evolving topic. There are, if I could describe the regional collaboration methods that are in place now, there are at least 4 extensive meetings that are occurring daily. There's the city managers and public safety with the county that occurs. There's the 2 or minority elected officials call that occurs. There's now a planning director and building official call that occurs, and I believe there's a city attorney county-wide call that's occurring. One of the questions that's being asked in each of those is, can the notes be made available and distributed? So I don't know the answer to what the county is doing with that, but to the extent that we can bring, and again, it's also that there's so much information that I think it's been a little bit unidirectional, like this is what we need to do, X, Y, and Z, and we haven't, that sort of processing the information and summarizing it and getting back out has been a challenge for those groups.
Well, I also think it's really important for the public to understand the incredible collaboration that's going on in our county, because they don't know that, right? So the more information we can get to them about that, it's helpful, because then people feel like they're being cared for. And that's what's happening. I mean, I see it with even just our county contractors. We're talking almost every day. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
So, as you know, I'm a city attorney for 5 cities in the Bay Area, so that means that I am working with 4 different counties on this same issue. And all the counties are doing, the best that they can with the resources available to try to address this in real time. And I can tell you, in my whole career, I have never addressed this. Nobody has. I mean, this is all uncharted territory. Everything is uncharted. So we are all dealing with it the same. But I will say, not to disparage any other county, because every county is working phenomenally. But I did mention to the city manager that for me, in my role, I am so grateful when I am participating in these regional calls dealing with the San Mateo County, because I have to tell you that your city manager and your county representatives are the best in the Bay Area in terms of coordination and collaboration. It's phenomenal, and I'm extremely impressed and really grateful for the work that your staff is doing and that county staff is doing in terms of transparency and keeping us informed about what's going on minute by minute. I mean, I have never talked to to the San Mateo County Council more than I have in the last 2 days. I mean, it's unbelievable. So.
So are we good on communications? Thank you.
Well,
There's
I
other
just-
stuff.
I just wanted to say that for the public as well, is the lead agency really for everybody is the county, sanmatelocounty.gov, because they have the resources that no city in San Mateo County have. They have the health department, they have, public safety countywide, fire, everything. So I would really encourage, they're actually coming up with a website that will let you know what businesses are open so you can order takeout food. So they are really getting down to the nitty-gritty of something that we as a city, if we institute something, we have to worry about the sustainability if this lasts until July or August. Because if we go to, like in New York, they put an order in, no government can have more than 50% of their employees in the government buildings. And if we go to something like that, there's a real doubt about sustainability for Pacifica. So I really do think people need to realize that the county is the lead agency. Just Google sanmatelocounty.gov. They have a whole plug in there for all the related. SAMCETA has a really excellent website as to what is going on.
Tell people what SAMCETA is.
Oh, SAMCETA is the San Mateo County Economic Development Association, and they have taken the lead. It's SAMCEDA, and they have taken the lead in terms of posting everything they know about it, okay? And last time, I think they might even have a spot of meetings that are canceled, events that are canceled. So it's really important that the lead agent people know, because it's also the most up-to-date information from the federal and state governments, as well as the county governments. And I don't know if they're doing city or not, but it is important for people to realize that the lead agency that has the best resources and most resources to do anything is the county of San Mateo. And they're the ones that also are calling the shots, the governor and them, because they're the ones that closed all the schools down, et cetera. And right now, the schools are estimated to be closed through June and probably not opening up till August. So I know Jefferson is Jefferson High School is making their plans, and the last I heard was Oceana will not be open for meals, but Terra Nova will be. So just because of logistics and employees and what they are. And I know we've been negotiating a memorandum of understanding for the unions and everything else there at Jefferson. And just as a question is, how are we handling our employees? Are some of them not coming to work because they're working at home, or are we having everybody come to work? What's Pacifica doing?
There's a variety of categories that employees fall into. So I don't want to speak to all the compensation issues and such, but there's a lot of work that's continuing remotely. And is focused on essential work to continue, and there's a reduced number that are actually in the buildings, and we're practicing our the guidelines for social distancing in our meetings, et cetera. We're launching different technology use for telecommuting, for what am I trying to say, teleconferencing meetings, et cetera. So there are some employees where those programs are shut down, and they're not coming to work, but we are having them do things that they can do to benefit their job, whether it's trainings online, such things like that, so if they're being paid during this time, then they're using that time productively, et cetera.
So the two biggest issues that, we know daycare is closed, but the two biggest issues that have the public interface are senior lunches and the Easter egg hunt. Has there been a decision made on the Easter egg hunt?
Yeah, that's canceled.
Canceled? Okay.
Yeah.
And then senior lunches, Meals on Wheels is continuing, but the senior lunches at the community center, how are they being handled?
So Meals on Wheels is continuing. I believe the senior lunches are not continuing, but I want to caveat that because I'm not recalling whether they're being prepared for pickup, grab and go, or not. I'd have to double check and report back on that. Actually, that information may be on the website. It could be that Ms. Brooks knows the answer to that.
It is on the website.
I'm sorry, I'm just not remembering that detail.
Congregate senior lunches grab and go. Yeah, it's on the website.
So it's grab and go. Yeah.
Good evening, council members. The egg hunt, as city manager said, is canceled. Senior lunches are not being held in congregate form anymore. They're grab and go only, as Councilmember Beer said.
Okay, those are just the two biggest public interface things we had,
Wait,
and I wanted
Elizabeth, can you come back?
answers here on. Thank you.
Can you explain the grab and go?
Yeah,
Like-
exactly what the process is. I think people may not be fully aware.
As I understand it, staff are preparing the lunches and wrapping them up like to go. And depending on the mobility of the residents, they might be taking them out to the car. I think some are being made available towards the entrance. Meals on Wheels are not being dropped off face-to-face either. They're being, people have been asked to put a chair outside or do something like that. And as much as possible, the meals are being put on the chairs outside to reduce face-to-face contact.
And do we know the pickup times for the meals? Is it from like 11 to 1 or something like that?
I don't have that specific information offhand, no. I don't know.
Is it on
See
the,
it on the website either.
No.
okay, maybe if we could put that on the website, pickup times are between whatever, 11 to 1 or 11:30 to 1:30, whatever it is. That might be beneficial. Thank you, Elizabeth.
White, I'll probably be the next one to say that. Oh, white, I did quick.
Minute, I see something on the website. Grab and go, we are offering a takeout program option during the period of enforcement of social distancing. During this period, seniors who are 60 years old and above who would like to come by the center and take a meal to go, this will be the same meal being prepared for the dining room and will be given to the participant in disposable ware take home during regular lunch hours, i.e. 12 p.m. to 12:30 p.m. Drive-through pickup is available during these hours on the east side parking driveway.
So basically, they can pick them up between 12 and 12:30.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Okay. Thank you.
So Sue, did you want to say something about Governor Newsom?
Yes. Governor Newsom today passed yesterday passed an executive order regarding no evictions. And then the president today did something similar, but I think limited it to HUD. And I was wondering, I asked quite a few people today if it required a proclamation on our side to do so, because I think it's only the right thing to do, that we halt evictions at this time. And it's really hard to get an answer right now on something like that. Do we need a proclamation? Can we discuss it now, or do we have to wait till a future meeting?
Well, I will tell you, what the governor's order did is it suspended certain application of state statutes which preempted the city's ability to do any tenant eviction moratoria related to non-payment of rent before the cities were preempted. The governor suspended those statutes, but he did not take action on behalf of the state to adopt tenant eviction moratoria. What he did is he left it to the cities and the counties to determine in their own right whether or not they individually wanted to adopt tenant eviction moratoria. I have been in contact as I mentioned earlier, with the city attorneys in San Mateo County as well as the county council, and we are hoping to have a coordinated approach to this issue, which is important to every city in the county, and every city in the county is interested in determining and analyzing whether or not, in fact, cities should and can adopt individual moratoria. The county is also considering, although they have not done it yet, whether or not the county could adopt a moratorium that would apply within the cities, which would preclude or relieve the cities from having to adopt their own moratorium. We have a call scheduled tomorrow morning to further discuss this. My suggestion is that as soon as we, city attorneys and county council of San Mateo County, have figured out what that coordinated uniform approach would be, we would bring that back to the council at a future date and discuss it. It will obviously be happening very soon. So my guess is, and we can talk more about this on item 3, we will be having more special and, perhaps even a regular meeting next week.
I also have more on that information too.
I was just saying is I did get a email forwarded to me from Don Horsley in regards to the gun shop and crowds congregating in front.
Can we
guess-
talk about that in a sec?
Yeah.
Because I have more to add to that
Okay.
statement, yeah. So we had a mayor's meeting today at 3 o'clock. They announced it at the 12:30 meeting, and I think all but 2 cities were represented, although one of them I saw dropped off, so I would say that almost all were represented. And this was the topic, was their urgency ordinance that Governor Newsom put down. And so really what the general discussion was, and I'm not going to get this right in terms of attorney speak, was that the county is interested in putting forth, and it was Supervisor Pine and Supervisor Slocum who were sort of leading the effort, putting forth an ordinance that states that evictions will not be legal, and they'll do a 30-day check, they'll do a 60-day check. A lot of the council members asked the county proposed that it might be extended to homeowners as well, because what if those homeowners who are expecting the rent are now late on their mortgage because of that? And I would like to say 3/4 of the council members agreed, might have been more like 2/3, because then there was an extended conversation that asked for it to be extended even further to commercial businesses. Supervisor Pine advised against that initially because he felt like that they wanted to wait and see how things played out a little bit further for commercial businesses. But initially, their messaging was, the county manager's messaging was, we need people to stay housed. It's not just about the tenants, it's about the landlords. They felt that if cities were to create their own ordinances, that the liability would fall on the county anyway, and I don't know why, but that was what they said, and that it was going to be a county order, so there was really no need for cities to go and do their own. And that, as far as they know, there are no other Bay Area counties except potentially Marin that is drafting one, but they're also looking at potentially deferring, like having rent deferral for maybe 30 to 60 days repayment or something like that. But they referenced it. I don't know if it'll be, but so that's what I know. And they also said that they're looking at drafting it on Monday and hopefully ratifying it on Tuesday. That was the fingers crossed date. So that's my update.
But being we're a city, incorporated city, would the county ordinance cover?
It could.
Yeah.
It
They
could
can
also,
write it
I
so that
know
it
that
can't.
in,
Saying, yeah.
for example, in Sonoma County, another one of my cities, they are considering adopting an ordinance that would allow cities to opt in, which would require those cities to actually take an affirmative action. So it's sort of halfway between what the county of San Mateo is discussing and other counties which are doing nothing. That is sort of their happy medium in their opinion. That's in Sonoma County.
Okay, so we can find out whether it's opt-in or opt-out, whatever.
Well, as I said, I'm having a call tomorrow morning with the county council, and he is supposed to inform us at that time what the county intends to do with regard to adopting an order regarding tenant evictions. And as I said, when I get more information and have the analysis for the council, we will be coming back to the council to discuss sometime next week.
And do you need a consensus from us to do that? No. Okay.
So Mike had a question about business, and I have some items on business as well.
Okay, I got an email from Supervisor Horsley that one of our citizens wrote to him about the issue. I guess there's an issue at the gun stores in the area. San Jose, I guess, has ordered them closed as being a non-essential business. I, to be honest with you, don't know if there's been a crowd because I've been in my house. So I don't know if the police have any thoughts on this, and
Can I
if
add
we
what I
wanna
know to that
consider
too?
that. Yeah.
I also received information on the same, that gun shop is open, why is it deemed essential when the healing places, yoga studios, and healing centers are deemed non-essential and they're closed. Supposedly, there was a line out front. My supposition was that it was because it's a small space in there and they had to wait to go in. Not that there's people gagging to get guns, but that the visual was scary.
And that goes back to the definition of what is an essential business and what isn't.
Which is
Well,
what-
what is essential service?
Right, that's,
And I will say that the definition for essential services is intentionally broad.
Yeah.
And in speaking with the different counties, as you might, expect, they have different interpretations of what their order means, even though it is the same order among all the counties. And in speaking with the county council in San Mateo County, there is language in the order that gun shops are saying does authorize them to be an essential business because they relate to safety. That may not be an interpretation that we would have in reading the order. The county council said that he understands that interpretation. He's not making an opinion one way or another. But I will remind the council that I do have some trepidation that if we were to make a move to determine that gun stores are not essential, that we will undoubtedly be hearing from the National Rifle Association. And the consensus among the San Mateo city attorneys on this topic is that, they are not advising any of their cities that it is non-essential. I have not formed an opinion yet, but if there is a need, I will do so. But right now, I'm sort of taking the position that we are going to sort of follow the lead of the county council and the city attorneys, and their position right now is that it can be considered essential.
I'll add just a tidbit of information that I heard is that the shop in Pacifica, as well as other shops, also sell food, MREs, meals ready to eat. So that's part of that argument that I heard.
That's actually a good argument, but I would also wonder and be curious if healing studios that relate to health and or, chiropractic, integrative health, if they're also deemed as essential or if that would hold up in court.
I think they would violate the 6-foot rule.
No, I understand that, but so are healthcare. So is healthcare providers. So in a sense, it's just a different type of medicine.
I have not been asked that question, so I would have to look more particularly at the order itself to see where that healing, the facilities that you're talking about would fit in with the exemptions. I mean, certainly there's a medical facilities is specifically spelled out. So the question is, are those healing facilities or, chiropractic, are those medical facilities? And
Yeah, I'm curious because my children still go to chiropractor. My children still, well, they canceled feeding therapy, but we still have a urology appointment. So I don't know why maybe they are closing and they don't think maybe they think they have to and they actually don't need to.
I got a message from a chiropractor, and they said they're changing how they do things, and they will be wearing gloves, but they are open, and they'll only allow one person to come in at a time.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
being
there's very
very
strict,
specific and extra cleaning, and wearing gloves, so
I
they are
have
open.
not asked, nobody has asked me for that opinion, so I don't know, I don't believe the city has taken an affirmative position that they are not essential.
Yeah, and I think with the volume of questions that we're getting about this topic, like, are tax accountants essential because it's tax season? And, so we're getting a lot of different questions coming in. And so how can we properly answer them?
I would say you should refer those questions to,
Okay.
because they generally have responses to these questions. And what we do, or what I do when I get this question, I will contact the county council to say, what did you intend when you drafted this particular provision? And he will tell you that he's very, open and available and, has just been amazing. So, but I would say the fastest response, because it's going to take your constituent time to get to you, and then for you to get to the city manager, and for the city manager to get to me. The best approach really is to have them contact the county and ask them all these questions. They're much more prepared to answer these questions. I believe they're putting together an FAQ with all these questions that they've gotten. I don't think that's online yet, and I don't know.
They do.
It is, and I'll repeat for everyone's information and the viewing audience. The legal call center.
Thank you.
The county has, and that phone number is 650-363-4588. And all of this information will be communicated out and on the website tomorrow as well.
Okay.
The email address is healthorderfaq, all caps FAQ, @smcgov.org. And the frequently asked questions related to the shelter-in-place order is on the county's website, smc.gov.org/shelter-place-FAQs.
Thank you, Kevin.
I have some questions. Does anybody else have anything? Okay. So some of them are just statements, but
Well, if you have an inflection at the end, it sounds like a question, so then,
council humor.
We also need to check
little levity.
public comment.
Yeah, we need to check our email account and see if anything has come in. And
Okay, so
Yeah.
we can
Oh, are
check
you
that,
ready?
but
Or-
should I go or should I wait to talk? Do now.
Ask for public comment.
Even though we have some more questions?
Yes? Even
Yes.
though council still has more to talk about?
Oh, well, if you have more questions, I'm sorry.
That's
My
okay.
mistake. I thought you were making statements now. If you still have questions, then please ask your
Yeah.
question.
Okay, great. So, question came in about public bathrooms. One came in that said, keep the public bathrooms open because we're encouraging people to go for hikes and going to the beach and things like that. And then another email came in that said, I can't believe you have the public bathrooms open. My thought is if my kids are out on a walk, we're going to use the bathroom.
so the public bathrooms, minus the one that just burned down, are open, and we're doing extra cleaning of them. So that's an extra service that we're paying for to do. Our staff is doing it. So extra cleaning. That relates to parks. We're trying to encourage people to get out and do active things that they can do with appropriate social distancing That means hiking and going to parks. In the parks, I'll mention that the parks are open, the bathrooms where there's parks that have bathrooms, those are open, being cleaned extra, but the play structures are closed. We don't have the capacity to do proper sanitation regularly of the play structures, and those are difficult to practice for kids to practice social distancing. So the play structures are closed, and there's signage saying that.
Yeah, okay. So that's the bathroom stuff. There's also been a lot of inquiries about fundraising and volunteerism, and people want to do stuff, but they don't know how. And one thing that stuck out to me was there's a guy that's putting together a GoFundMe site for outreach and education, and I don't know in what capacity that will look like. I'll most likely be promoting it on my social media, but it's basically to reach those that don't have access to this information, and probably at the one place where they're going to go, which is the grocery store. In that same vein, I do encourage people to create your virtual neighborhoods. If you have your neighbor's phone number or your neighbor's email address, call them, talk to them, throw it into an Excel spreadsheet or up on Google Docs, and then ask them to get somebody else's name that's right next to them. And so if you build up, you know, a network of 8 to 10 or 12 people, neighbors, if something really bad does happen, you have each other to call, somebody to borrow a tool from, or to make you some chicken noodle soup and drop it on your doorstep 6 feet away from you. So the other thing we talked about was city lunch, school lunches. We'll get that on the website. I brought up the idea of a virtual Q&A, maybe hosting a Facebook Live or something like that. And I don't think there's anything precluding us from doing that as individual. Mary, I saw you did something awesome with the Resource Center. I loved that. Thank you. So the other thing was, in terms of essential services, I know the sheet metal workers union did close its doors, I believe, in the Bay Area, but all the other building trades are deemed essential, as is construction, especially as it relates to ADUs and things like that. That may change. Has it changed, Sue?
I got a call today
Yeah,
from someone who's building an ADU, and they told him there are no permit inspectors and there will be no permit inspectors, and so you have to stop.
right.
And
So
I
that was a bit of a
shocked.
disconnect that I was picking up too. So I did, and as again, going to the point of it's an evolving picture. So I wanted to check in on that as well, because 2 days ago, they said the only construction that was essential was
Housing.
for government-related buildings. They weren't even addressing housing at that point.
And they
Well,
changed
check out
it.
the SAMCETA,
Now
the
they
latest
are.
issue. Keep an eye on them because they're on it. The SAMCETA emails that are coming in are really gold. So read those when you get them. They've been coming in at like 3 or 4 o'clock every day. And that was how I found out about the sheet metals workers. But, so there is going to be disconnect, right? Because I also heard the same thing in town about that. And we're still in reactionary mode. So also, I had a survey coming out to my house, and he said, no, the county told him no. But unless you said ADU, then he would come out. So it's interesting, and people, I think, are able to make their own decisions, too. Your boss can make his own decision. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, let me just add, this is an evolving topic with lots of questions being researched and sort of refined at the county level related to the order. The general consensus is that work related to housing and creating new housing is essential and should continue. Let me speak specifically to what Pacifica is doing. Pacifica Planning and Building is open for business in alternative means through online submittals and review, and they'll need with their resources to prioritize, how that works, and open to virtual inspections through FaceTime or other methods for certain types of inspections that could occur. So that's our approach right now, and we're participating in and waiting for the county-wide conversation about what type of contract work should be allowed to continue or not before we start educating contractors about what they can do or can't do under this order. But right now, we're open for taking applications and conducting the business and conducting inspections as best we can to be protective of our employees, to be protective of everyone.
Okay. Yeah, the person did mention that he has a friend building the same thing, and they are doing it by Skype, their inspections. They just walk around together and show them, and they did it that way. Or they could arrange a time when the inspector could just be there by themselves and inspect the property without you. So there are ways that you can get around the social distancing of it and still continue to build.
I think
But he's frustrated.
in light of the issue about housing, and as we've been rolling forward with the one-stop center and really making some strides with ADUs, I would sure hope that there's a way that that can be smoothed out so that we can make sure that we're getting that housing online as quickly as possible.
Yep. Okay, then the other thing I had was, we had received an email from Housing for All looking for renters protection, so we're looking forward to, well, I can speak for myself, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out from the county Monday to address this, and I think we're going to pretty much probably follow Governor Newsom's lead. And then the last thing I wanted to say was, businesses are open. Restaurants are open. There are some. You can do takeout. You have to social distance if you're in the space, but you can eat in, you can take out. You can also have deliveries. There's a number of organizations that are now moving into Pacifica, probably because of this new delivery thing, Uber Eats, and there's a couple other, I can't remember, but use those. Pharmacies are open. Grocery stores are open, gas stations are open. Please don't hoard, please don't panic. If you normally would go to a store to get something and they're closed, think about buying a gift certificate now online for use later, so we can try to keep the money going in Pacifica. I said this on our public service announcement that we will be airing on PCTV, that this is a global pandemic and it is unprecedented. It's very important that we follow it at a global level, but we really, really have to focus on what's right in front of us. Our family, our friends, our neighbors, our local businesses, and our local government, because we're the ones that are going to get each other through this. Call your friends, call your neighbors. And just remember that we just need to really be patient and focus on what's right in front of us. And we're going to get through this. Please don't panic. Let's take care of one another and be well.
I have one or two more questions.
Go for it.
So the legal call center, does that also include guiding like small businesses about loan opportunities? Is that the same call center or is there a different one?
Right, I think the legal call center is more set up for, I mean, I think it's being defined. I don't know
Okay.
what its scope is, but initially, it's in the context of questions about the shelter-in-place order.
Okay.
So there are different resources related to small businesses. This again, or business assistance, and this again will be information that is in this communication tomorrow and on the
Okay,
website. But
perfect.
our own economic development website has information up there.
Okay.
Councilmember O'Neill mentioned the SAMCETA website.
Okay.
Has a significant amount of information. And then we also have a reference to this site called the 650, which is a running list of food for pickup or delivery. So that's another resource.
Great, thank you. And then after the information.
Specifically, sorry, Mary.
No, go ahead.
But specifically on that, I was listening to the Jackie Spear call before I came
Yeah,
here.
me too.
And she said that SBA takes about 4 to 5 weeks, but there's something called CalCap, which is accessible online for small businesses, and it's an instant. She said it's a revolving $10,000. It's through the Treasury of California, and that should be of interest to small businesses and people who are trying hard to pay their rent and keep going. Go on.
After the information goes out tomorrow, will it be mailed out, like in the mail to people? Because there's some folks who don't have online access. I'm worried about those folks.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been considering doing direct mailers. It costs a lot, and we know from other examples that it largely gets disregarded. So
Yeah.
Initially, our approach was push it out through all the channels that are quick.
Yeah.
And then, and have folks understand that they should be sharing this information.
Okay.
You know, it's a great point. In a neighborhood, does someone want to print up a whole bunch and drop them on people's doorsteps? You know, that type of thing. If the council wanted us to look at, I think it's about $5,000 to do a mailer. The city could look at doing that. The problem with this is sort of, you know, what was accurate or relative information yesterday is not as much today. So there's that question.
But I love the idea of mobilizing a neighborhood, though, to go ahead and like pass information out, so. Thank you so much for everything.
Just a quick question on that CalCap that you just mentioned. Can you say how it's spelled or where one, I mean, I'll Google it, but
CalCap.
CalCap.
And it'll be on Jackie Spears' website.
Site, okay.
So I know it's hard because not everyone does have computers. And the next door is, I think, where a lot of people here get their information, and we all are kind of spread out. And like, I don't get the south end next door. I only get my neighborhood in the north end. So I feel like I'm missing a lot of the things that are happening because of that. So I'm going to try to.
Well, and when the city gets to our more social media and we put it out on Nextdoor, we go citywide with information, and it's just sort of a unidirectional. We push the information out. We close those items for comment, and
right.
And so everyone citywide, I believe that's right, through all the Nextdoor regions gets it.
One thing, it's maybe off topic, but it's a bit to do with the small businesses again. I had understood from the county manager's call that the restaurants and the food stores are open, we know, as the mayor was saying, and that the supply chains will be open. But what we're seeing is the supply chain for some very small businesses is a business such as Restaurant Depot, which is closing. And so if you get your products from Restaurant Depot that you use in your small restaurant or lunch counter type restaurant, then you can't operate. So I'm trying to, I was giving it a minute to wait and sort out, but that is a concern of mine because the supply chain is a big word. And if you think of a Cisco truck pulling up and unloading, half a container of stuff into your store, that's open. But if you're a small business that drives to a place yourself and purchases it, it may not be open. And that's going to impact people. I think it may already be impacting some people in town and down the coast side already. So I'm going to pursue that with Samsita and the small business information that you were just outlining.
It's CalCap, just how it sounds, CalCap.
Thank you.
Okay, I will open it for public comment first to the one card that I have here, and that's Tiger.
Might want to ask Ms. Brooks if she has received any email communications that need to be read.
It looks like she has. Okay, 2 so far. All right, Tiger, you're up.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Tiger Jazz, Twirl's Big Stick of Pacifica. Picking up from where I left off and acknowledging the mayor's comment a moment ago, not panicking, I think is a very good idea. And beyond that, what she immediately alluded to, the continuation of that helping each other right now is vital. Right now, what we need is kindness more than anything. We need to keep our heads, notice what is a blessing around us, or whatever you want to call it, and to treat each other with kindness. As a grocery store worker, and believe me, we are quite open right now, if you notice the line is very long and your order is very large, you helping us bag that as we are working upwards of 12, 15-hour days. It's a big, big help. Speaking of the grocery stores, we are attempting to kind of sequester Thursday and Tuesday mornings, at least at the Lindemar Safeway, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. as a time when seniors and the immune impaired can come in with less fear of doing their grocery shopping. I encourage anyone aware of this time frame of 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring your neighbors. If you have a healthy relationship, and I mean that physically, with somebody who might need help getting to a grocery store between 6 and 9, show up. If you have a concern for your immune system, but you don't fall strictly into the category of over 65 or over 60, but if you are concerned for your immunity, show up. The Pacifica Resource Center right now is in a great need of, they are also open right now, by the way. They are an essential service, and they are essentially serving. They are in need of food, they're in need of money, they're in need of volunteer drivers. If you're looking for a place to volunteer your time right now to help others, because it's driving you crazy otherwise, unless you're helping others during this moment in which we all need to be helping each other as much as we possibly can, volunteer your time with the Resource Center driving. This idea of distance is particularly pernicious because it's our nature to find ways to help each other, and that usually requires closeness. So within the context of keeping those distances, there are healthy practices. No jokes this time around. During the next segment, I'll bring in a little bit of a cynical one for a point statement, but right now, don't panic, be kind. And we will keep our heads, and we will get through this. And just look at what you have at hand. That right there is the best advice I've heard all night from our mayor. And in general, look at what you have at hand. Be kind. Thank you.
Tiger, if you could just wipe the mic down, thanks.
So sorry, it's all very new to me.
Madam Mayor, as Ms. Brooks is coming to the podium, I just want to remind the council that Ms. Brooks is just the messenger. So she is going to come to the podium. The city clerk is going to begin the timer, just as if the person who sent the email were here in person. So Ms. Brooks will come to the podium, state the name of the comment, and then start her 3-minute period.
Ron Fashenda, will Public Works Field Services continue to operate normally?
At the end of the comment?
That's the end of the comment.
Go on to the next comment.
Sue Degree, the broadness of the definition of essential or necessity seems to open up to a large scope of businesses. We have a health crisis. Not many for businesses, for profit or otherwise, do not have the predominant reality of funding for lawsuits. It seems the fear of being sued is of more significance than the fear of this threatening virus. That's the end.
All right.
Next. Amy Handley, please tell us why the gun store in Eureka Square is considered an essential store. Healing centers and yoga studios are closed. They could be open in these stressful times. Just upsetting that a gun store is open with a line around the block. Thank you, Amy Handley, 404 Carmel Avenue, Sharp Park. That's all for this item that I've received.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay. So do I have a motion? Or does anyone have any more to say on item 1?
I move that we adopt item number 1.
Resolution.
Adopt a resolution ratifying the city manager's proclamation of the existence of a local emergency regarding novel new coronavirus, COVID-19.
I'll second.
Okay, we will take a vote by name.
Councilmember O'Neill,
Yes.
Councilmember Beer,
Yes.
Councilmember Vaterlaus,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Beckmeyer,
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes. All right, thank you. We will move on to items for consideration, and we have the consideration of a temporary adjustment of regular city council meeting schedule. I believe we have a report.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Martin and council members, Kevin Woodhouse, city manager. We're in a unique time, and we know that this crisis is going to impact our workflow, our staff resources, and so I thought it would be appropriate for the council tonight to discuss how we want to move forward with our city council meetings and our planning commission meetings at the outset of this topic or this crisis. We, being cognizant of the importance of public input at public meetings, we canceled commission and committee meetings that weren't essential, and planning commission and city council meetings are typically streamed by PCTV, and we're devising these electronic methods for public input. But the question is, and with the uncertainties that lie ahead about how this virus spreads, potentially impacting city employees, do we want to change at all the regular city council meeting schedule? And there's some alternatives outlined in the report. Do we want to revise that to include less frequently until the local emergency is done? And one of the sort of a good segue or follow-up on the large conversation that we just had about public information, there's typically a lot of work for every regular city council meeting that goes into preparation of the reports and review of the reports and getting the agenda posted. And you know, to be honest, yesterday was even a scramble to get the agenda posted for today while we're simultaneously handling all of the information related to the coronavirus. So, but there's essential work and important work to continue. I do know that the regularly scheduled meeting for Monday, the 23rd, the items that were going to be agendized for that can be heard on April 13th. There's no time sensitivity to those or time urgency to those. So the recommendation I'm making is that Monday's meeting be postponed and we continue with the April 13th, I think it's April 13th, regular meeting. And we do one meeting a month and have a meeting in May, but we monitor as things go along, and we consolidate all of our essential council action items into those two agendas. And another point of consideration for the council is that during this unique time period, and with our constraints about public participation and social distancing, an item for the council to discuss or consider is the difficulty with taking up very controversial, policy decisions the council may need to make under that public input step. There's no legalities related to that. That's just a policy decision of the council, because we're legal in the way we're conducting meetings, but that would be a policy decision of the council. So the purpose of this discussion is just to open the floor about how we want to proceed so that I can get direction in programming out our business to come.
If I could just add to that, I do want to emphasize that the governor's order made clear that we are only to be undertaking essential business, meaning that business as usual is not to occur during this emergency time. And the other thing I mentioned earlier, and I think it's going to be important for the council to discuss to give direction to the city manager, and that is the governor's order this morning made clear that he is waiving all requirements that there be any council members, staff, or even public present during the meetings, that the council may go to totally virtual meetings if it so chooses. And you just saw, I think, how well the actual real-time electronic submission of comments went tonight. So that is clearly, you know, an option that the council should consider and discuss in light of what the intent of all these executive orders are, and the county health orders, which is to really have people shelter in place as opposed to meeting in gatherings. I cannot emphasize that enough. It is so important. The only way we are going to be able to fight this disease is to self-isolate. We have to conduct business. It has to be done, and we will do that. But the question is, do we have to have it with in-person meetings, or can we move, even slowly, to virtual meetings?
Mike?
I would definitely say that we need to keep it on either the second or the fourth Monday, because Channel 26 also covers Half Moon Bay and other cities that's kind of our niche. So if we do want it televised and live streamed, I think we need to keep that schedule. If we can do our job in one meeting a month, I'm fine with that. And obviously just the essential stuff, no controversial issues that we think will pack the room. So, I mean, that's my thoughts. And if we can move to virtual meetings, I mean, I'm not really keen on that, but if we have to, we have to. So, that's my thoughts.
My initial concern is that we're trying to share information and get information out to the public. And I feel if we don't have a focal point, which is a meeting like this one, it's going to be more challenging to do that. So I don't know how to address that exactly. I don't have a proposal yet, but I just want to say that I feel like today's meeting already has shared information, gotten information on the record, enables us to better go back to our individual houses and share out what we are hearing and learning and can point people to. So maybe initially, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll think about a proposal. Go ahead.
I was thinking that we need more meetings, not less.
Yeah.
If they're special meetings and we can notice them one day ahead, and not have extensive paperwork attached to them, but more of information sharing, like Sue said, because I feel left out in the dark, and I can see the side of the people who are more left out in the dark.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with that. Nervous, even though I want to minimize the work of the staff. So virtual meetings is going to be really important. So however we can get to that stage, I don't see why we can't. We're able to do them, you know, with my youth council. I mean, we're having virtual meetings with them. It's just really important to keep getting the information out. I have to agree with both Sue Beckmeyer and Sue Vaudelas on that point. Although I don't have like an idea of how that would best work.
Right, that's what I was saying. I don't have a proposal. I don't even have a timeline, but the concept of meeting on a frequent basis just seems appropriate at a time like this. People are looking to us for information and help and direction, and it just seems like the right thing to do.
I guess you're all waiting for me to say something. I definitely think we should cancel next Monday. That's my first thought. I think this is drastic enough that everybody is going to be scrambling to get something out on Monday. Today's Wednesday already, right?
Well, remember that we will probably be scheduling a special meeting at some point next week. I prefer that it not be Monday. That will give us, other city attorneys in the county, the time to really work out what is the response on tenant eviction.
Yeah, okay. And so that would be my first thought, especially with given that information. But for everybody to hear, to stop what they're doing, to prepare agendas for us, for things that they haven't probably touched in over a week and a half, I think that we should definitely just cancel that meeting and plan on a special meeting. Does everyone else agree with that, at least for next week?
I agree with that.
And then moving forward, I don't think we should have more meetings. I think if we stick to our schedule, then I'm okay with that. But I also think that we have to seriously look at the workload of our staff and really make sure that we're focusing on the top priority of our council, which is the health and welfare of our community and economic viability. And so the things that we work on should be, number one, emergency response, and then really have city manager prioritize from there. And if that means lighter loads, that's what that means. I, for one, have a ton of projects that I haven't even looked at for almost 2 weeks, and I feel so overwhelmed, and that's in my day job, and that's because I'm also on the COVID response team at work. So I can't imagine if somebody said to me, okay, starting Monday, back to usual. No way. It's pointless for anybody to show up to that. So that's kind of where I'm thinking that if we just ease back into it, plan on next week emergency, and then April 13th, I think, is our next meeting. I think 2 meetings a month still sounds okay to me, and city managers stay in full contact with us in terms of transparency of realistically what can we touch. And we know that some of our goals are just going to be totally shot for 2019, 2020, right? I mean, everyone agrees with that, right?
Yep.
I'm thinking about my own focal review at the end of the year with my boss going like, yeah, not getting to those 2 things. So I just ask that everybody acknowledge that, and I ask the community to acknowledge that too. I mean, we've had to cancel our goal-setting session, which we're not there yet. We're focused on short-term planning and then long-term planning. But for right now, we're focused on making sure that everybody's safe. So I think that everybody agrees, but did I also hear that you want more meetings than that?
Oh, no, I just said not less.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sue?
I said special meetings for current, like we're having a special meeting now.
Right.
A special meeting next week, I think it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Just not
Exactly.
the long, drawn-out meetings.
Yeah, and it's nice to take a shower once a week. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
And was there any thought on how you want to handle public participation? Do you want to explore the ability to have virtual public participation as opposed to having participation in person?
I knew Half Moon Bay did Facebook Live this past Monday night, but I know that there's a lot of issues with Facebook Live and not being able to censor anything and things like, not that we want to censor, but Mike, did you have something?
No, I was just going to ask her to define virtual.
Meaning the governor's order today has waived the requirement that the city, which is a Brown Act requirement, allow public participation at the location of the meeting. The governor has waived that so that there's no longer a requirement that the public be allowed to participate in person. They can participate electronically as they did tonight, but there's no obligation on the part of the city to allow public presence at the meeting. Of course, to support the whole intent of the country, which is to self-isolate and to really encourage people to shelter in place. And it is hoped by the governor's office that that action will essentially lead by example with encouraging people to stay home and submit their comments and participate in real time as they've done tonight, as opposed to being in close contact with others.
So would the council also be virtual?
That's up to the council, and the council doesn't have to decide tonight, because all it will require is a telephone setup, and then as 1 or 5 of you can decide to either show up or to appear by telephone. And there's nothing for you to decide on that tonight. All we need direction on is, because we have to agendize it a specific way, if we are not allowing public to participate in person, just participating electronically.
Oh, I have no problem with them electronically, or by phone or email, whatever.
I know Zoom, people were using Zoom today, and initially the upstart was really annoying, but it seemed to work well. If anybody, you actually can do it very easy from your iPhone. You can also do it very easily from your computer. Audio works better on your phone.
Yeah.
But your computer's much more comfortable. So Zoom is very popular right now.
And is that?
And it's really inexpensive too.
You would be talking about the council member participation through Zoom, not
Yeah.
not the public.
Not public, no.
Yeah. You can have a forum where public can call in, listen, and be on mute and enter questions in a bar. Not that we have a Q&A, but I'm curious if they could like post a 3-minute speech or something in there. I don't know.
Yeah, that would have been my question, is the telephone the only way that we can do it?
No, electronically, just as we did it tonight.
Yeah.
It would be just as we did it tonight. I thought, actually, I thought that went extremely well. Good job.
And I mean,
Ms.
just
Brooks.
the Zoom in general.
The only difference is that Tiger would not be here.
Man.
But it would be exactly as it is tonight.
Yeah, my suggestion, so kind of the glimpse behind the doors is, we spent a fair amount of time, staff, over the last, few days designing how the electronic public input would work tonight. We had a meeting on Friday afternoon with OpenGov, which is a collaborative online platform that we use, and what tools do they provide, and then we had a follow-up call with them, and then we evaluated and set up the email account, and tonight was the experiment, and so it seemed to work pretty well. So I mean, in terms of being cognizant about staff resources that go into all these technology tools, we're also at the same time figuring out our own internal working technology communication tools. I would just say that the email account seemed to work pretty well, and let's stick with that as we move forward. And the next meeting, we'll see how it works.
And we can promote it.
So we're just going to have a
And we can
phone
promote it,
conference then, potentially?
What's that?
So then we would just have all be on the phone, nobody would see each other, right?
No, I think she was saying have the meeting.
That's just for the public
this way.
participation.
But the
At the council level, it's whatever you feel comfortable with. And I will say that what I'm seeing so far is that there is usually 1 to 2 council members who are present, and then, the rest are usually telephoning in. And but it really, you don't have to decide that now. You can, because we don't have to notice if you are phoning in. We have to announce it at the meeting, but we don't have to notice which council members are phoning in.
If I may, it sounded like we may have some technology issues around phoning in, though. I asked that question earlier at the outside of the meeting as to whether that was an option for us. And it sounded like there's some issues with providers, maybe, in making that.
I think we've resolved the AT&T issues here at the
Okay,
council chamber.
okay,
So we
okay.
can use a conference line for folks to call in.
And so we have that capability in this building, and, okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
So I guess my question would be, do we have the capability to do like an online virtual meeting where we can actually see each other's faces instead of just the phone?
And that would probably be the Zoom
Yeah.
technology. So if council members are interested in that, we would have to, experiment and figure that out.
I feel like a lot of effort and energy went into getting the emailing and the comments up and rolling. So I think I would say we have a model that works right now. And I realize staff is really stretched. So to the degree, and I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want you to drop everything to figure out how to make Zoom work if you need a week or two, to attend to other priorities, and then that can be kind of a next level, because I think we do need to be prepared for the possibility that this goes on for a very long time, and we're going to need other tools.
We would look into that as time permits. I think we'd look into those technologies and see.
Yes, and to that point, I know that the county order to shelter in place has its own expiration date of April 7th, but it also has in that order that it may be extended, and my understanding is that there's every intention to keep extending it.
Right.
Okay, we do have a public comment. We have a comment card. Is that okay? Okay, Tiger?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council and staff. I am Tiger Jazz Twirl's Big Stick of Pacifica. Here's the part where it gets dark. And if I am the only person here during a meeting, I do not feel like I am at risk. So, at Safeway, grocery store where I'm working, in the Monday night before a self-quarantine order goes through, and you're looking at lines that are literally a football field deep, and everyone's crammed into the same place, and you hear that everyone is supposed to self-quarantine except for essential services, of which your job applies. Immediately the thought occurs to you how quaint everybody has to stay home except for when they are all convening simultaneously into this little box, sardine style. And of course, governance is doing this for the sake of our health. Let that sink in. Not that we're not sanitizing things as ardently as we can with our shoestring staff, and if you'd like a job at Safeway, boy, are we hiring right now, since we've been out of a staff for quite a while. And if you want to risk your life in that little box so that we can clean a little bit more and get people out as quickly as possible, please sign up. I have my rice and beans ready if we're doing a real quarantine, by the way. So the way people feel about their gun rights, which is why that gun store is doing such wonderful business right now, is the way I feel about my right to free speech and the right of public transparency. And the moment that the idea of a ban of public attendance was mentioned, boy, did my skin crawl. Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate that I'm one person here and that we need to do something to make sure we're all healthy and safe. My personal bias is one in which I am very wary of paranoia. I'm very wary of fear. Boy, have we come around in a very short amount of time from we have nothing to fear but fear itself, because here we are. I am here because I am not afraid. I am much more afraid of not being heard and not hearing than I am of this virus. I appreciate my age and how healthy I appear to be in the moment, and that we need to figure this out and take care of each other and not panic. How big's the workload? What kinds of things are going to be discussed? How long does it take to study those things? Specifically, what do these essential things look like? Because I know what regularly is discussed, but are we going to talk about general plan at all, or is that put off? What about RVs? Is that going to still go into effect or no? It's people's lives, right? What about the budget? Okay, we're just talking about the budget short term, not long term. If I'm allowed, I'll be here no matter what. I may well be in the minority. Just think things through, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have some comments coming through via email, which will be read in a moment.
Peter K. about canceling the rest of the meetings this month. Now is not the time for the city council to be slacking. Now is the time for the city council to be doing stuff for the city of Pacifica, for the voters, like maybe providing eviction protection as allowed by Newsom's order, and then a web link is provided to that order. That's all.
No other comments? Okay, great. Bring it back to council. This is an item for consideration, so we will need a motion on this, right?
Need to give direction to staff.
Action? Okay. So we can either move to cancel the regular city council meeting scheduled for Monday, March 23rd, I think we all agreed to that, and provide direction on a temporary adjustment to the regular city council meeting schedule and the planning commission meeting schedule until the termination of the local emergency. Okay, so some variation of that, I think we're going to have a motion.
And I could take, I mean, some of the comments I heard leaned more towards keeping, I heard interest in canceling Monday's meeting and picking up with essential city business at the April 13th meeting and keeping the second regular meeting in April as well for essential city business, as well as the 2 regular meetings in May. We didn't talk at all about the Planning Commission schedule. They have a meeting in April, I believe, on the 20th, and I believe their regular first meeting would be the 6th. The question is whether they have essential business for those. So I'm just trying to synthesize what I heard. We could start with council and then move on to planning commission as necessary.
I think the planning commission actually is kind of essential also, because a lot of that stuff is tied into the economics for the city, as well as, you know, the livability of a lot of the homeowners and residents of Pacifica, and housing and business as well. So I think you're getting into them, people carrying loans for longer periods of time if, you know, that is, the grant permits aren't granted, et cetera. So I think they should just keep their same schedule, and, you know, obviously, if it isn't essential, the meeting's canceled, but I also think they could have the same virtual meetings we do in terms of either the commissioners or the public. You know, I don't know if I'm comfortable about saying no to a live body out there, though. I don't know, maybe other members' thoughts on that. You know, I think the virtual is great, and should be, hopefully majority of people do, but I think people should be allowed to come and speak live, so to speak. That's me.
My thought is that we should, my thought is to give them a break, at least for the first meeting in April, given the planning department is swamped right now with trying to figure out how they're going to keep operations continuous. So I would at least I want to see if there's any appetite for making a recommendation to cancel at least the first meeting and then going virtual, maybe with however they decide here, or however you want to do
We just canceled the meeting.
it. We canceled our meeting.
No, the planning commission canceled the meeting.
This past week, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So if we're canceling another meeting,
Yeah, that's what I'm recommending.
I'm not. I think they need to have
Those
meetings.
projects that were before the commission this week will be over 6 weeks then. And, you know, if they have a contractor lined up or whatever, and there was, if I remember correctly, a house on there. Two houses on there. So, I mean, I fully believe in letting planning staff decide, I mean, delegate that authority to them, but you'd be looking at 6 weeks if you wait till
When
the
you say
end of,
decide, you mean decide whether they should have their own meeting?
Whether it's
No.
essential business or
whether
not.
it's essential business or not.
Right.
If there's is
I
there
have no problem with that.
flexibility for that? So if if there isn't essential city business, then can the meeting be canceled? Is there flexibility
Yes,
with that?
I think there's flexibility in us determining
Yes,
what is
yes.
essential or not. One of
Yes.
there were 2 housing items, and then there was the Planning Commission's review of the Sharp Park specific plan. So, question related to the specific plan is ordinarily, that would probably be a pretty crowded meeting. So that gets to the policy question for the council, is it okay to do that through the remote public comment means?
I think if we're going to follow the orders of our county, yes, then they should not be coming, a whole bunch of people should not be coming in here. Right?
Well,
So
but we
should do-
can't decide for meetings that we think there's not going to be a lot of people. It's okay to have people in the public, and issues that might bring up a lot of concern. No, we can't have public that time. I don't think that's going to work. I think what we would have to instead arrive at is, like when you go to a restaurant and you have to wait for your table and they give you a beeper and you go away and then you come back later, a number system so that X number of people can be in the room at a time and will ring you on your cell phone when it's your turn, and people have the opportunity to physically come and give their 2 cents worth. I think we just have to come up with a new way of doing what we do. And I think the issue of transparency and the public having the opportunity is paramount in times like these and in specifically this geographical location. I think that our community is very interested in that, and I'm sure all communities are, but speaking specifically about Pacifica, I think that that would be important to maintain, however, in a way that allows for non-mass congregation.
I mean, I feel just the run-of-the-mill, addition to a house, one house or whatever, fine, but I think like the Sharp Park specific plan, that's wide community interest. I don't think it would be possible to really have a fair hearing for that virtually. I think people want to come here and talk, so I think that might be postponed to a time we can have a meeting with live bodies, a large number of live bodies here. So I would be open to postponing the really controversial items, but the run-of-the-mill planning, doing a room addition or building one house or something, have those meetings.
So I feel that we have to be very careful, not only with the public, but with ourselves, right? So we don't want to put any of us at risk, and we don't want to put the public at risk. And so that is first and foremost, that's what we're supposed to be doing, is sheltering in place. And so I feel that it's really necessary for us to follow that directive and to be an example for our community who might not be thinking that that's important. And so any way that we can have meetings and be sheltered in place, I think it's critically important that we do that and find a way for our public to be able to give public comment, which we were able to do tonight. And so that I'm going to fall back on that I think the virtual meetings are extremely important.
With no in-person public comment option, or
We're not going to be here.
Well, right, yeah, if we're going to be sheltering in place.
I think we're talking about planning commission and city council, aren't we?
Well,
Are we-
if our planning commissioners are going to be sheltering in place and doing a virtual meeting, right?
Yeah.
Which is what we should probably be doing if we're going to set an example for our community and how to proceed through this time in our world that we've never seen before. We have to be examples of how to stay safe.
At least I don't think I disagreed with you there.
Okay.
Yeah. You just look like you were getting defensive.
No,
which I wouldn't
I'm
pick up
just
in a virtual
making
meeting.
sure that I'm stating how I really feel, that I feel it's really important.
Yeah,
Yeah. I just don't want to have a packed full of room because it's a real controversial item
Yeah.
them, you know, but the run-of-the-mill, doing an addition on a house or one house that you're really not expecting, you know, and even allow the applicant's architect and engineer to come in virtually also.
And I think that goes back to defining what is essential or not. So if city staff thinks that the Sharp Park specific plan is essential, then we should probably figure out a way to how to do it. It goes back to that definition again.
So that one is going to go to planning when? The Sharp Park specific plan?
It was supposed to be
It
Monday.
was scheduled for Monday night, so
So it would be in 2
could potentially be
weeks?
rescheduled for the 6th or the 20th, depending on if there's 2 or 1 planning commission.
We do have a planning commissioner in the room, do we not? Is it
Yes,
okay? Is it
we do.
okay to ask for an opinion from a planning commissioner, or is that?
I don't see a problem with that.
City attorney?
So you're going to reopen public comment?
Yeah, I think I'll reopen public comment. Can you answer that in 2 minutes or less?
I'm speaking as a planning commissioner now, so please ask me the question and I will do my best to answer it.
Mary?
So you've heard our conversation?
Yes.
And what is your opinion about either having less planning commission meetings, or what's the question I'm looking to ask for? Help me.
Essential.
Yes.
Controversial public meetings that you might have.
Well,
People that want to come personally and plead the case.
you have to excuse me, it's hard to divorce my mind from personal bias and thinking as a planning commissioner. They're a little intertwined in that. But I'd say I agree with Mike insofar as when it comes to something that's really controversial where ordinarily you'd have a packed room, I'm not confident that we can receive public comment adequately if we're doing it virtually. Speaking for myself with a really antiquated laptop, I have my Amazon Fire tablet that I bought specifically for Planning Commission so that I can look at the PDF file of the agenda packet, because that was easier than lugging around however big or small the packet is, and then my cell phone. So the idea of doing any meeting virtually, part of my bias comes from my lack of technology, and just speaking for myself, it's hard for me to wrap my own brain around having to learn a new technology. So I appreciate and would err on the side Mike's idea that if it's something really controversial, I'd prefer to do it in person so I can really hear the public. And then the other side of that was a matter of what essential business looks like, and getting back to earlier comments when I wasn't wearing my planning commissioner hat. I really don't know as a planning commissioner what an essential topic might be, you know, especially since it's city staff who's usually making the agenda, right? And so I'd be very interested in hearing any specific, you know, here's an example of what an essential topic would be. So for me to be able to even answer that, I need to know what essential looks like. The question that occurred to me was, okay, it's an addition to a house or even a house being built, but I thought I heard a moment ago that maybe contractors aren't even available to build a thing. So are we able to put that on hold for whatever amount of time without penalizing anyone monetarily, while they won't even have a contractor available to build? Or will they have a contractor to build? Because that's the first set of questions in my mind. What are the resources they'd actually be able to utilize during this time? What is truly an example of an essential something that I might have to deliberate on?
Right.
So as far as those two questions, that's what I've got for you.
Thank you.
So if we had a planning commission meeting here and it was about the Sharp Park specific plan, I'm absolutely not comfortable with the idea that anyone would show up here more than 6 people or something like that. We're really putting ourselves at risk. We're in violation probably at that point.
Right.
And I think if there's a Sharp Park specific plan that requires a lot of documents, a lot of community participation, and that's on the next agenda, it needs to be pushed. And whatever that means for the other items that are pushing forward housing and things like that, can be all done remotely. That would be my recommendation. We as council members are absolutely, we took an oath to protect the health and welfare of our community, and I intend to make sure that we keep talking about it.
With regard to the specific plan, for example, what was occurring to me is, okay, what would be essential? How would I define that? And I was thinking about when we had the opportunity to declare a priority development area, for example. I'm not even sure, honestly, I mean, I know that it makes sense and that, in fact, that was discussed with Planning Commission. I don't, in this essential time, I don't know if it would be required or if it would simply be a council thing. I mean, that's, if there's a deadline or an urgent thing that we need to approve so that we can move forward in the future, that to me would be essential. But the deadlines would all be pertaining to other governmental agencies and processes, which may also be putting their items on a back burner in some way. So I was just trying to go in my mind on why would the Sharp Park specific plan or the general plan update or et cetera need to be right now? And I don't know an answer to that. That's really more staff to tell us.
And you know, the determination about essential would come to me and planning staff to make that determination. When I look at our whole you know, how things are sequenced and lined up for Pacifica's business and our future and our financial sustainability, the Park Specific Plan is on a very specific schedule, as is the general plan, related to adoption before the end of June, which then, for the specific plan specifically, then sets the stage for the RFP for this site for a hotel, which relates to our economic future. So I have a strong justification to say this trajectory we're on is essential. Having said that, there are realities about this situation we're in and this crisis we're in where even really, even essential work is going to get interrupted. And then there's other definitions of essential which relate to specific deadlines. And, you know, for example, the item that was on the agenda tonight with the Army Corps, they have a federal budget submittal deadline. They needed that by Monday of next week. So that's why that was on the agenda. So I think the issue more, rather than a determination about essential, relates to, for the council, about the method and means and acceptability of public input on an item like the Sharp Park specific plan.
So in other words, you think the determination that we need to make this evening is how to conduct those meetings? Is that what I just heard?
That's what the item is about, right?
It's
In other words,
well, the one question that would relate to, if we're moving forward with a planning commission meeting on the 6th, and we're going to put the Sharp Park specific plan on that, the question for the council is, are we going to allow the 20, we wouldn't be in violation of anything. Our setup here tonight is compliant with the rules. I think there's about 20 chairs or so. They're all 6 feet spaced apart. So we could allow that number of people into the chamber at one time if there were that many people that wanted to show up and not participate remotely. So the question would be...
how are we compliant with that says no gatherings of any kind? And is it the caveat unless everybody's 6 feet apart?
I believe that
Yeah, the requirement, it isn't a requirement that there be no public presence. The requirement that there be public presence has been waived. So there's no requirement that the city allow public presence at the meeting. The question, and the way this room can house speakers, it appears as if there are 20 available seats for people to sit and be publicly present. In addition, there will also be the opportunity for people to electronically submit their comments at the same time, so that even though only 20 people would be here, and you know, however many people want to comment will be able to comment, and they will be read into the record during the public comment period.
then a question is, okay, this, let's say this room will hold 20 people per the new guidelines. Can we tell people you need to leave because there's 5 more people that want to speak? So you've spoken, you have to leave to let someone else in. Can we legally do that?
Well, we couldn't ask people to leave, but we could allow people to come to speak at the podium if we were able to maintain all social distancing requirements.
But no, that's not my question is, if we have...
I know, and I just said we could not do that.
Okay, so we cannot require or ask people to leave.
Once they're here, we would not ask them to leave. We wouldn't let people in who
Want to speak.
who would force us to violate the 6-foot social distancing requirement. I believe that there is a way to allow people to, if they could line up while maintaining social distancing requirements outside, they could walk in to the podium and then leave as soon as they made their comment. They wouldn't be able to stay in the building.
That's what you're asking.
But we also would have to, but understand the logistics of that.
Right.
They couldn't just stand out here in a crowd. They wouldn't be able to stand together. They would have to, stand out in the parking lot,
Or go in
6
their
feet
car.
apart. And then, practically that that would be very, logistically, I think that would be difficult to monitor. And I think the question for the council really is not so much what is an essential meeting, but do you want to have essential meetings where it is likely that you are going to have a large crowd that are going to want to speak in person as well as electronically? Or do you want to postpone those meetings to a time when these restrictions can be lifted and you can have normal public participation the way it used to be? I think that's really the question for the council.
Of course,
That could be June or July.
Oh, August.
Or August.
August, yeah, because they've said this might even go for 2 years. Well, the other option would be to go to, let's say, the community center, which has a bigger, I don't know if that capacity, and I know at one point, the city council moved their meeting up to Oceana's gym. So if we have a particular item that is really controversial, it doesn't have to be in this building, it can be moved to another location. And then there's the logistics of live stream though.
Right.
Right.
Can you have 2 meetings, live stream and then live comments?
You would have to make sure that whatever facility you were moved to, you could have live streaming. That is now a requirement if you're going to have social distancing requirements in place and if you're going to allow the public to participate.
And the first meeting in December, we did the community center meeting regarding the oversized vehicle ordinance, I
Right.
believe it was. And I can comment that was, I think it cost about $5,000 to pull that off with all the audio visual, and PCTV did film that.
But that was not live streamed, right? It was filmed?
I don't recall whether they live streamed it or not.
Always do.
That meeting was live
Yeah,
streamed.
Always do.
they did live stream it. So it was quite an undertaking with a staff team to design, but we've done it once, so it wouldn't be as much. But, again, there's that component.
All right, so,
What
so we have
consensus was
direction for council meetings. Unless we come up with a big meeting that requires some large.
If we want to, what I heard about city council meetings, but you guys, can confirm, was there may be the need for a special meeting next week. And if there is, we could probably agendize a discussion item about communications related to coronavirus as well for continued discussion about where we are on that.
Yep.
In addition to the other item. And then the next council meeting would be our regularly scheduled meetings in April 13th. And we would be working, again, contingent on, you know, what staff do I have available, who's sick or not, and, you know, how that's evolved, right, in scheduling the essential items for those 2 meetings.
And could we also request that potential essential item for that would be maybe like a couple space heaters? Just because there won't be people here to keep us warm.
Yeah.
It's pretty cold up here.
Colder tonight.
It is chilly, yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so did you
We
come
can
up
turn
with
the
any
heat on.
summary items from our planning discussion? Or do you have any recommended paths for the planning discussion, given everything
No,
that we've mentioned
So
here?
that was all over the map, it sounds like, so far. I don't know that Councilmember Vaterlos has weighed in on that.
Yeah, I
I'm
want her
not
to
sure.
weigh in on.
But,
Well, and let me clarify for the council, with regard to the planning commission meetings, those meetings, we have already been in contact with planning staff with regard to what are the essential meetings, and they certainly are the meetings that have legal deadlines. It's clear that construction should move forward, especially if it's housing. So those I would consider to be essential meetings that will move forward. The only delay in that would be because we have reduced staffing. We don't know how long it's going to take to prepare all of those agendas, but those projects will be moving forward. What the clarification really is that I don't think the issue for the Planning Commission, we don't need direction on what is essential or what is not essential. I think, you know, staff, based on legal guidelines and the interpretation of the order, we know what's going to be moving forward, and things are going to be moving forward. I think the question for the Planning Commission, and even for the council at some future point, is how do you want public input to exist for those meetings that are undoubtedly controversial, for lack of a better word, or will have a lot of public input?
Comment is, I think the Terra Nova Theater does allow video conferencing, which would be able to be live streamed, I would assume, and that holds 400 people. So we might, if we can ask staff to get in touch with the high school district about renting that space for controversial items, because I know they've also canceled all public use of their buildings because of the stuff we have, but being this is like another public entity having a controlled meeting, not,
Maybe they could donate the space.
you know.
So you're talking about 75 people? Because you're distancing them, and then, like Mary says,
Can't do that.
we're going against the order.
Yeah, we can't, we have, yeah, thank you.
Right. We are going against the shelter order, because all those people are passing each other. They're all in the same building. There's a reason why we're supposed to be separate and sheltering in place.
It
Think people
holds
at risk.
400 people, so there's enough room to have the seats spaced apart. I don't know, I'm just trying to throw out an alternative so we can try to keep some projects on schedule, because if we go into the recession that's talked about, nobody's gonna bid on this building, and that puts us in a hole of, you know, further in the hole that we've all looked at for a long-term budget. So I'm just trying to think of an alternative to see if it can work, and then we can get out with a tape measure and see if people can sit 6 feet apart.
Yeah, I absolutely disagree with that. I think that we should allow meetings to go forward and have virtual public comment.
Can we do both? Can we offer virtual comment and also come to the public like we did this evening? And
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So, and if the issue is that people show up and there's too many people here, just like we read this evening, that you will ask to you wait outside and get your buzzer, and we'll let you know. And there will be police here helping to manage that process. Does that sound, I have a feeling nobody's going to
What
really
are
gonna
other
wanna
cities
come.
doing?
Most cities are going to virtual public participation
Right,
that I'm working with.
thank you.
Shore Park specific plan is huge,
Right.
huge. It'll affect us for the rest of the Pacifica's life. And I think that people are going to want to comment. I think that people are going to have issues with doing it electronically
I agree.
because they want their emotion to be heard. It's a really emotional topic. But I also, I want the people to be able to speak. I also want it to continue. I do not want to hold up. I mean, we've held it up for 4, 5, 20 years now. It needs to go forward so that we can send out the RFP.
So what are you proposing?
And so what am I saying?
Right.
It's a really difficult situation. It's what I'm saying.
So I think if I may, the mayor just made a comment about having the opportunity for people we've determined in this room, we don't know about Terranova Theater or anywhere else, this room, we have a space for 20 people that could have distancing, and if do it in an orderly way, and that's the part that we need to derive, is what does that look like? How does public safety staff help keep that orderly so that we don't have a big bunch of people all standing outside on the porch, right, not social distancing, so that they can come in here and then sit 6 feet apart from each other, right? It has to be a process that is from, you arrive in your car to your podium, that we maintain those distances all the way along, is a way that we could do both. And we just have never done it before, so we don't have the process yet. But I think what you were saying, Deirdre, is there's a way.
So for now, I think we have a way, and I think what we heard earlier was that if this is going to be longer term, there's going to be some research done for longer term solutions. And I think that's the answer. We're doing the best we can. Things may evolve next week, and we can talk about it also next week during council communications in terms of how we feel, but also I think what I'm hearing is that, Mary, you're proposing we go to 100% online.
Yeah, I'm okay with the minority.
No, I just want to make sure that I'm
Fine,
capturing
but
it.
that's where I stand,
I just want
yeah.
to make sure I'm capturing what you're
Yes,
saying
thank
correctly.
you.
Okay. Mary, I also agree with that too, because I also believe in technology, but I don't want to rely on it. So because business continuity is our business right now, that's the job of everyone right now, is to make sure that we do that, something different, in a good way and in a safe way. So I think we're covered, and we're probably in the minority, and that's okay, but for now, we may evolve into that, and we may be forced into that.
Might have to, yeah.
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 Right.
So, but I think what we're hearing is Planning Commission continues on their regularly scheduled program. We offer both options, which is you can show up, and also you can send your email comment in, and someone will read it in to the record.
But is this,
Depends what kind of
is
meeting
this,
it is.
I thought I heard the council saying that this double alternative of public participation as well as electronic participation was only for the controversial meetings like the specific plan. But with regard to other non-essential, that it would be virtual public participation.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
I'm okay with that.
I didn't hear that from you, but
I guess I hate to be difficult. I'm not trying to be. I'm just thinking essential is in the eye of the beholder on some level. I don't know how to put that accurately, but, can we assign, if somebody has a concern and wants to speak in person, it may be essential for them to speak in person. Can we make a subjective decision on that, if it's essential or not essential?
Well, the meetings are the only meetings that the city council, under the governor's order and the health, in the county of San Mateo's health order, are if we make a specific determination that they are essential. So business as usual is not essential. So staff is already going to be making a determination as to what is an essential meeting. So once that determination is made, then the question is, there certainly are some essential meetings that are going to require agenda items that you may not have any public comment on. There are other essential agenda items where we know that we are going to have a lot of public comment. And it's those meetings that I think staff is pretty able to make that determination. I don't view that as being very subjective. I think if we were all asked, what are the meetings where you think we're going to have a multitude of people who want to comment, I think that's going to be, I think we would all agree. So I don't know that it's necessarily subjective and that, you know, it's in the eye of the beholder, because every meeting from here on out until that order is expired will be essential only. So the question really is, for those essential meetings that I think we all would agree are going to require a lot of public input, for those meetings, would you like to have the public input be both public presence as well as virtual public comment? That is really the decision for the council.
And that could change next week. I mean, there could be thousands and thousands of people next week that are suffering from this. Right now, there are very few people, so I think it's ever-changing. I mean, if there's thousands and thousands of people, do you want even to have people in this room 6 feet away from each other? I wouldn't.
Right, and
Well, and I heard from a county official today, not San Mateo County, but that the best way to address this issue, this disease, is for everybody to assume that you have COVID-19, because that's how you would behave, and that's how you should behave. So that if we all assume that, then that is going to help you make a decision with regard to how much exposure do you want your constituents to have to a possible, virus like COVID-19. That really is what the council should be thinking about in terms of virtual participation versus holding gatherings, even in large facilities where you're going to have 75 people even in one location.
And I know I contradicted what I said, but what I'm saying is that, you know, today it might be okay for us to say, okay, we can have these people here, and next week it might not. So I'm not sure we can make a decision on something like that because it is so ever-changing. It's difficult to make that decision.
And it is difficult, and we are all making decisions on a minute-by-minute basis, and perhaps an option is to not make a decision tonight on those controversial meetings, perhaps postpone it until we can see how these virtual meetings work. And you know, you may have constituents who don't like the virtual meetings, and I'm sure that we will, and the council will hear about that.
Right.
And then you can weigh the need to have public presence on meetings, or whether the virtual public presence is sufficient.
Thank you. I think
Because it
you
is very
said that
difficult. It is a
what I was
difficult
trying
decision.
to enunciate that wasn't working.
so one of the alternatives that's maybe being thrown out there is that we could, well, let me back up, that the general interest of the council is that there may be a planning commission on April 6th and April 20th, and every day is evolving with this virus. If the council is going to have a special meeting next week, we could pick up the conversation about, you know, what's happening at that time about whether the Sharp Park specific plan should be on April 6th. in the intervening time between now and a potential special meeting next week, staff can do some discussion with planning commissioners individually. Director Waremeister could gauge their feelings about that as well, and see how they're feeling about it, and really make that specific decision about a meeting here with in-person comment on the 6th, figure out a system for people lining up if it's necessary or not. We may be surprised, and people may be totally fine with the remote commenting process mostly. And the specific plan process, I'll just remind the council, has had a very, very significant amount of input already through the online survey and the meetings that did occur before this crisis struck.
It's never enough for the public.
Sure. So there'll be more, but you know, there has been a lot that is factored into what's being brought forward to the Planning Commission. So we could kick that decision down, but the general concept, depending, and again, I need to remind the council, similar to we don't know how it's going to spread. I don't know if I'm going to have any planning staff a week from now, right? So,
Right.
or me, or you know,
Right.
you. We just don't know how folks might get exposed or to someone and need to be self-quarantining and not be able to participate.
Is it possible to, you know, Disneyland's closed, not using their machines, that we just issue fast passes for people?
That's what
You
I'm
can
talking
speak
about, a buzzer.
between this time and this time, you know, facetiously, but
Yeah, no, I'm sure we can come up with some sort of system, and calling people on their cell phones while they wait in their car, and, you know, egress down the elevator and ingress up the stairs, or whatever you have to keep the social distancing. We can figure that out. It's just a question of, you know, how much time are we going to put into the design of the meeting and the orchestration of the meeting. But it sounds like I'm seeing a little bit of head nodding about, you know, seeing how this evolves until next week. And if for some reason we don't have the need to have a special meeting next week, then we can, you know, pick this up in some other fashion.
Okay, and you're gonna get input from Director Warmeister for next week, right?
Yeah, we would, yeah.
Okay. All right. Everybody okay?
just a question. At the next, so we would be appointing the new commissioners on May 2nd, I guess, if we don't have or can we put that on a special meeting?
That would be the appointment of the commissioner committee members would be on the April 13th council meeting.
The head nod.
Okay, so we did not come to a consensus on the council, or on the planning meetings, but we did come to, you have direction on the council meetings.
Yes.
Okay. Everyone happy with that? Okay. That's it, meeting adjourned. You know what, let's just adjourn in honor of all those folks who have lost their lives to COVID-19, and just remember to take care of one another. Thank you. Good night.